thing that all successful hockey teams, really teams in all sports, will have in common is that they'll show resilience. They'll bounce back when things don't go well. They'll do so sooner rather than later. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins 4, Kings 2 last night in Los Angeles. And if you want to talk about resilience, you can talk about the overall rebound from what had to be a really, really frustrating loss to the Ducks a couple nights ago across town in Anaheim, given how brutally that game was refereed and how skewed the power plays ended up in favor of the home team, despite the Penguins having not just edged, but dominated the Ducks in all 5-on-5 metrics. That can get you down. And coming off that home loss to the Rangers, the 6-1 loss in which the Penguins obviously did not play well at all, at least not after the first few minutes, there could have been a snowball there. Now, toss on top of all of that, the Kings getting 2 early goals to get last night's game going, and you could kind of see, maybe you didn't want to think it, but, all the stuff that everybody had forecast all summer long, and you're looking at the scoreboard and the standings, and, well, that's not the way it played out. Not at all. Yevgeny Malkin got the Penguins on the board early in the second period. His first goal of the season, accompanied by a half dozen assists. Connor Dewar finished a play to tie less than a minute later. And I say finished a play because he starts a lot of plays. He's not necessarily going to be somebody who runs up a big goal total. In the third period, talk about welcome scenarios, Philip Hollander, who's played really well in all 3 zones since being inserted into the lineup, was the one who got the tiebreaker. That was at 6:50 of the third. He just took a couple of cracks right around the net after Ricard Raquel had gotten it there. This was shorthanded. And then Sid split the open net with 31 seconds left. And, rebound, bounce back. I could also throw in that the Kings were 0 for 2 on the power play, which says something not only about the Penguins being more effective in their killing, but also that they took, or at least were assigned, fewer penalties. This seemed to be the part that impressed Dan Muse the most afterward in speaking with reporters in L.A., including our own Taylor Haas of DK Pittsburgh Sports.
I think those guys were obviously, they weren't thrilled. They take a lot of pride, in their job and going over the boards to kill penalties, and so I don't think anybody was happy with the result. Credit to the penalty killers, and also credit to Mike Suthers and Nick Bonino. They put in a lot of work here, just in terms of meeting with guys individually, meeting with the group, working on it some, and so it was a significant difference there, and it made a huge impact in the game.
Good stuff, all of it. And you know what was better, I thought? Once the Kings got those 2 goals, against Artur Shilovs, by the way, everything, almost instantly, either settled down to the point where the game got a lot quieter, or it tilted toward the visitors, including Shilovs. That's also not necessarily something that you expect in that circumstance. The home team gets that kind of momentum, and, they start feeling a little bit more, and they start getting more aggressive and coming at you. None of that happened. None of it. I got to tell you, there's one regret that I'm left with after this, and I don't like to carry things over from show to show to show, or bring up something from a couple of games ago when there's stuff to talk about this one. But I'm sorry. Do you realize that this team could be sitting at 5-0 right now, if not for 2 terrible calls/non-calls in that loss to the Rangers Saturday night that totally turned the event? And then the generally awful officiating a couple nights ago in Anaheim. I just saying, I'm not predicting anything. I'm not pretending that the Penguins are some sort of contender in the moment or anything like that. I'm just saying that as you and I are communicating at the moment, 5-0 was sitting there to have been had. When we come back, J1Q. And today's J1Q comes from Pat, who asks, DK, could Justin Brazeau be a finisher? His career trajectory doesn't suggest it, but my eyes are telling me otherwise. Well, be careful what your eyes tell you, Pat, especially in small sample sizes. This is a very, 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 very small sample size. Brazeau off to a 4-goal start through the Penguins' 5 games. The fact that a couple of those were really nice-looking backhand moves against pretty good goaltenders playing for New York franchises, that's welcome. The fact that he seems to have established himself as a preferred target of Yevgeny Malkin, who can be a pretty discerning customer in some ways, that's also encouraging. And I'll throw another one at you. His career, this is just in the NHL, shooting percentage is 15.2, which is very high. He has 20 goals on 132 shots in exactly 100 games, the 100th being last night in LA. Ooh, and wait, I got one more for you before I, dump all over it. And that's that a big-bodied forward can take a little bit longer to blossom. That's been true forever. If you want the best example you could ever hope for in a Pittsburgh sweater, you can go back to Kevin Stevens, who, after he was acquired from the Kings, exploded onto the scene with the Penguins in his mid-20s. Why is that? Well, hockey people, whether it's coaches or scouts, will attest that bigger players take a longer time to grow into their frames, so you don't see the smooth stride on the bigger guys. That includes, by the way, a bunch of the recent draft picks that the Penguins have gotten. It's going to take a while for Bill Zonin, for Will Horkoff to look like the players that they'll eventually become, ideally at the top level. Now, why do I not see Brazeau as becoming, some big sniper or anything like that? The main reason is that I don't believe that he's got all of the traits that you would want to generate a lot of chances for himself. That's really, really important. This is going to sound like bone dry analysis, but to get a lot of goals, you have to register a lot of shots. To register a lot of shots, you have to attempt a lot of shots. Brazeau's played in those 100 NHL games that I mentioned. He's registered 132 shots. Now, he has not been featured in many prominent roles. In fact, what he's doing right now with the Penguins, skating on that second line with Gino and Anthony Mantha, is probably the most respect he's earned from anybody at this level as it relates to his usage. Now, one way that he can grow that figure is to use his absurd for the NHL size, 6'6", 232, by just being around the net more, by learning how to read off one of the better players in the history of hockey, making himself available, presenting the blade, being ready. When I was critical of Brazeau in the preseason, and some of you will recall that because it got pretty pointed there at times, he wasn't doing that. He wasn't making himself available to Gino. And when he was, and when Gino would find him, he just wasn't handling the puck well. It looked like it was a live grenade. So do I look at him and think he's going to turn into some kind of, burst out of nowhere, big scoring power forward? No, not yet. But you want to know something? I thought the same thing when Artie got here. Just being honest. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.